Hello and welcome to a special edition of this great vodcast where we're going to be talking about nostalgia, video games, and maybe old TV shows and anything that we find
Are we going for old
interesting.
TV shows now as well, are we?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking, obviously, we were just talking about the shotgun killer from Bullseye, so I thought, well...
Was he called the Shotgun Killer?
It says here how shotgun killer John, can't remember his name, was caught from Bullseye. So I thought, oh yeah, there's old TV programs and just anything nostalgia related. So this is going to be a nostalgia flavored vodcast. We're going to go for a little short one. We're going to go for a short around an hour. So we've got a fair amount of stuff that we want to chat about and kind of our experiences within them. So I'm pretty excited. I think one of the main things that we're going to be talking about is arcades, because Ali and myself spent a lot of time in arcades.
Yes.
As a kid, not like stealing kids' money or anything.
Or drug dealing or anything.
No. Or like smoking behind the machines and challenging people. We weren't that sort of person. People. We're not just one collective.
We weren't that sort of person.
Yeah, but we used to sit there and kind of actually play the video games and just challenge and just be cool. We weren't hustlers. But yeah, I think we'll talk about some experiences first. What experience would you like to go first with? Maybe what games did you like? What was your favourite in the arcades?
For me, the quintessential experience was the culture around beat 'em ups. So Street Fighter 2, because everyone goes, "Oh yes, Street Fighter changed the world." No, it didn't. No, everyone forgot about Street Fighter. It's all about Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat. I mean, there was a few other beat 'em ups, but really, for me, it was that culture of the challenge culture. You know, you go into this social space, you start playing, and you're playing the single player, and you're trying to work your way up the ladder, and you're beating all the people. Then someone comes along, kind of gives you the nod, right? That's how they did it back then.
Gives you the assuring nod of like, want to go?
No, it's like, I'm challenging you. It's not want to go, because when I played, it was free reign. The machine was all about it. Was 2-player, right?
No, as in, do you want to go? As in, do you want to fight?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. It wasn't like,
go. Not.
Excuse
do you
me,
want to go?
Excuse me. Do you mind if I challenge you? No. You put your money in. You went. You looked. You nodded, so they could prepare. Obviously, money goes in. Here comes the next challenger. And if they won, you get right off that machine, Sonny Jim.
Or you put more money in.
Or you put more money in. So, yeah, and obviously if you're good at the game, it's great, because playing your single player, someone comes along like that, you beat them, and they're like... And then
they're off, and then... Yeah, that happened a few times, but mine were quite civil. Like, I never had people like blow smoke in my face or anything like that. People just like, you want to go?
Yeah, I had that.
And I was also quite honourable as well. You know, if I was beaten, I'd move to another machine. Like, it's... I wouldn't say I spent a lot of money in the arcades, but I spent a lot of money in the arcades, so it happened quite a lot. But some of the games, like fighting games, were a big thing for me, especially like the single. I used to like the ladder, sort of single player ladder things, and whenever I got challenged, it was that sort of split second of nerves and your heart fluttering. You're like, oh my god, like here it is. I am now being challenged. And then, if you look, like you could tell within the first 2 or 3 seconds, you'd like.
But the software made a spectacle. You know, the software made a spectacle of it as well.
Yeah, especially Street Fighter when
like that or something, and it's like,
ready for the next challenger.
Yeah, and everyone knew.
Yeah, and it was very loud. The Street, I'm not going to digress, but this is very much.
You're going to digress. That's fine.
No, it's Street Fighter 5 does there's obviously the arcade machines for that for esports. Not console related. There's like in Japan, there's like specific machines.
Yeah.
Specific machines for it, and they do that really well. Like as soon as someone, comes in,
the
puts
software's
money
different.
Relatively different. It's still essentially the same game, but even when you're playing it on console and you're playing someone online, it's like there's a big booming voice that's like, I can't remember what he says, but it's like, ready for the next challenger, or a new challenger awaits, and it echoes, and it's really loud, so it's kind of like gear the people that are around you sort of sit there and go, oh, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get crowds. Like I think the most I ever played in front of was about 7 or 8 people.
You see, that's the thing with new beat 'em ups now. I don't enjoy them because for me it was all about, it was connected, it was synonymous with that culture. So playing them in public, playing against people, and that person physically being next to you. Otherwise, it's just no fun. When you're ripping someone a new one, you want to see the reaction right next to you. You want to see that, seriously.
I think another thing that kind of pisses me off about fighting games now is you could be absolutely ripping someone a new one online, playing these fighting games online, and then the other person will just turn their console off. Doesn't register as a loss.
Don't they get penalised now, though, for that?
Some games do. There's other games that don't. There's obviously quite a lot of games that will punish them by like beheading them. So if you are recording footage or anything, it shows that they disconnected. But some of them will just be, it will just count as a disconnection. Like poor internet.
No.
And they're like, oh no, it's a no contest, even though you're whipping them. But Street Fighter has something where you can basically, it's the best of 3 games, but you have to agree to play 3 games.
Sorry, 3 games, not 3 rounds, 3 games.
3 games, yeah. So basically, it's 3, like the best of 3 times. So if someone beats someone on Street Fighter, and then they like really troll you, and they start doing all like the teabagging and stuff, when it finishes, they can then opt to not have a rematch and then leave, and then they get the points.
Right. Okay.
They can opt not to give you a chance to redeem yourself, which I think all games should just be best of 3 over 3 anyway. Yeah. Because sometimes you might want to try a new character and then realise that guy is like ridiculous. So you want a counter for him. So you try and claw it back. But it's not, because it's all a point system on Street Fighter, which is a bit mental. But Japan have so many specific dedicated arcade machines.
Oh yeah, but their culture's completely different. I'd love to go to Japan. They've still got true video arcades there.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's really different. I'd like to spend a good month in Japan. It's really good for retro PC parts, used PC parts. Obviously, consoles, retro stuff there. I mean, I'd have to take probably about 10 million quid. No, but seriously, it's just
I'm
nuts.
sure it'd be pretty cheap over there, though.
Yeah,
considering
they've got some shops where it's just Saturns stacked, like 50 of them.
Saturns.
Yeah, Dreamcast, the games,
There's
Nintendo, Sega.
Specific exclusives that were over there, like the I'm pretty sure it was the Resident Evil Dreamcast. There was a Claire and a Leon.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure they were Japanese specific.
I'm surprised. I've watched a lot of retro gaming YouTubers, and I was surprised at how much Europe had that America didn't. That it was quite evenly balanced over a lot of consoles, where Europeans had exclusives, Americans had exclusives, and the Japanese had exclusives. So, yeah, it's pretty balanced actually. We had quite a fair share. If you do a bit of research, and you'll see, for different console generations, we did have quite a few.
Yeah.
The only problem with Japanese exclusives are they're in Japanese, or at least if the Americans want European, they're going to be in English as well, and vice versa.
No, I agree. It's some of the Japanese ports though. People will create English, like dubs for them, or create English, like voice packs.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can get the best of both worlds. But what I love about Japan is, like, for instance, Tekken 7 has just come out. Yeah. Well, not I say just come out; it's been out for ages. But it's the newest one. But instead of it just being console exclusive, Japan, they have made back-to-back wide boy cabinets. If you don't know what a wide boy cabinet is, it's a fighting game one, or a light gun game, pretty much with a 40-inch screen, like per player. They're the wide boys. But they'll have one of them back-to-back. So you don't sit next to them. You can't see who they're picking. You can't see anything.
No, I don't.
The only time that you see them is in the round.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But it's to emulate the esports experience. I don't.
Yeah, but the esport experience should be based, in my opinion, on the arcade experience, side by side, screen sharing, because that is.
Well, that kind of brings the nerves back, doesn't it?
So it should. If it's an esport, play it like you would.
Oh no, that's what I mean. I agree. I would like to have that sort of.
It's like body checking in ice hockey, right? So if you've got someone next to you and they might just try and get a little bit involved, a little bit physical on the joystick, trying to inch their way, that's all part of it.
Yeah,
everything's too sterilised now.
Sterilised?
Yeah, sterile. Everything, or sterile. Sorry. Back to back, so you can't even see the person. That's just fucking shit. No, it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to feel their sweat touching.
Just whenever they have really clammy hands, they just like wipe it on them. Like,
like, ugh!
Lovely job. But yeah, no, but fighting games were a big thing for me. That and side scrollers and rail shooters for me.
I think the other thing with arcades was the spectacle, because it was cutting edge technology, and it came to the arcades before anything. I mean, when I was going to the arcades, and when I first started going, I was 6 or 7. I had an Amiga 500. That was pretty good. 16-bit personal computer. Had some good games on it. You know, it was up there with the SNES and the Mega Drive in terms of the quality of the games. But what was in the arcades just blew everything out of the water. You know, it's just, crazy. So, you know, seeing that new game, and everyone would go and see, because, you know, it'd be expensive, and you'd all go and watch that person playing it. That was good.
What I particularly love about the arcades is the arcade experience was, even if you had the things on home console, the arcade experience was always better. Like recent things that were Mortal Kombat and, well, Final Fight even. Final Fight is a good example, actually. The Final Fight on the Super Nintendo, when they brought the port down, you think, oh, okay, you know, that's as good as you're going to get for a home console. Or, you know, things like Punisher was on
but Final Fight, you can't even play 2-player on the SNES.
No, I know. But what I mean is, like, even graphically, like the Punisher was a good example. That I'm sure the Punisher was on Super Nintendo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Punisher? Yeah. The side-scroller one.
I didn't think that ever got released on any home.
No, it's definitely got a port of something. It's,
okay.
I think it's the Mega Drive. Let me just check that. Punisher Mega Drive. No, the reason why I bring it up, Let's Play the Punisher Sega Mega Drive. Yeah, is that you play the Punisher and you think, this game's excellent. You know, why have I never heard about this before? But if you'd played the arcade version, that was a really bad port, because it would be the same game.
Yeah.
But you go there and it's just so much smoother. There's so many more frames to it. Like, it was such a more pleasurable experience playing the Punisher in an arcade. Admittedly, it's because you're paying 10p a go compared to the normal, you know, plug in a cartridge and play.
Yeah.
But it's just, it doesn't matter what you were playing. Like, the arcade experience was always,
they were
better.
They were more powerful boards. Generally, the arcade, you know, all the main manufacturers had their dedicated boards, which they brought out different generations of boards. And the Capcom one, I think that was CPS1. So they had this Generation 1 board. It might have been CPS2. I'm a bit rusty on it. But the point being, whether I'm right or wrong about which generation, it generally, if you had a console equivalent like what Neo Geo did. Now, Neo Geo brought out the console, their arcade machine, that you could play their arcade cards in the console itself. It was ridiculously expensive. So, you know, I don't know.
Neo Geos
they'd have more RAM. There'd just be a higher grade of machine, and then you could swap out the cards if you wanted to. But then you'd have to get all the new artwork for the cabinet, and then you could get Capcom generic cabinets as well. So I think the Punisher was the Street Fighter 2 era. I think it might have been CPS2. And there's loads of games. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Armored. What was it? Armored Core? No, Armored Core.
No, Armored. I know what one you mean. It's the one where you like got extra weapons and stuff.
Yes, there's
like you get extra arms and different legs.
Final
and
Fight was CPS1, I think. But so they had the dedicated board, but it did work essentially like a console. You'd take the cart out and you put a new. It wouldn't even be a cartridge. It would just be a bare PCB that you slot in and screw in.
Nice.
Other games like that, Konami did the same thing. You got Simpsons arcade game, the 4-player. X-Men was the same game, and Turtles were all the same cabinet, same game, just different artwork. Yeah, just different artwork. All those 3 games were essentially the same game, but they were still brilliant. I remember, you know, I didn't mind. I liked the Simpsons. That was all right, but my favourite was the Turtles out of the 3.
The Turtles.
So
was
good.
A good game. I remember going to the video game museum not that long ago, and they had the actual Turtles arcade machine there, and that was like, to play as player 1 or 4, you were literally right up against that screen here. You were like trying to look around, you know. Sorry.
Steady.
Just headbutt the mic because I'm so excited about it. But yeah, that's a good place to go. Like the video game museum, there's a lot of stuff, like especially for nostalgia. That you just walk around that. You'd see like newer games as well, like this, like consoles. Like there was
Yeah.
a PS1 that was just sitting there with Micro Machines V3 that you could just literally go and just play, and that was a game that I spent so much time on. But the problem is with Micro Machines is, have you played it within the last 10 years?
No.
It was friggin' solid, man. Like, back as a kid, I didn't care. I don't know if I had quicker reactions, but I tried playing it not that long ago, and I won like 2 races, and I just got pissed off with it. It was like, this is way too hard. I don't even know why I do this to myself. But around the video game museum, you could play like old like gun games, and then there's the Star Wars arcade machine, like the proper arcade machines, not
99 Star Wars Arcade. Hang on, was that the original? The Vector graphics?
No.
Or
It's the one where you hold the
1998.
joystick, and you had like the lightsaber. You had to like swing the thing.
1998. Yeah, I could get a perfect score on that game.
Oh, I couldn't. I
On
tried playing.
One credit. I played it so much that I knew where every TIE fighter was coming from, every hit that Darth Vader would attack with. I could always get a perfect score on, which I'm not particularly proud of. It didn't really do me any favors, but
Yeah, but it's fun.
I love that game, and it really felt like you were Luke Skywalker.
It does, because every time that you defended, like you know, when he would swing and you would defend it, like it really jerked the joystick. You're like, shit, you know, it was such good feelings. I just said jerk and such good feelings in the same line.
Well,
I don't know if that's a bit weird.
That's just the truth, isn't it? Let's be honest.
But like, it's just the video game museum. It was in Nottingham, and it was really magical. I don't. Magical is such like a overused word, but that one, walking through that, I was like a kid in a sweet shop, like a fat diabetic in a cake shop. Do you know what I mean? I was like that. I wanted all of it, but I couldn't have it. But it was just so pretty. They had like like a museum-ish bit. It was a few rooms, but it told you the full history of Dizzy Egg.
Yeah,
do you remember Dizzy Egg?
I love Dizzy.
Yeah,
Balls hard, and something a bit creepy about it.
It was, but it's the full-on history. Everything was just, awesome, and it had like NFC tags that are on bits of plastic that you could put over like specific rooms in the layout.
Yeah.
And it would tell you information about it, and it was, I don't know, I absolutely adored it. I thought it was just great.
The link I've just sent you, it's for the Computer Games Museum in Berlin. I went to Berlin, I think 3-4 years ago, as a birthday gift, and I got to go to this museum, and this was really good. Definitely, anyone who's into retro games, you go to Berlin. You need to go to the I think it's the Computer Spiel Museum.
Yeah, the Computer Spieler Museum.
Yeah, really, really good.
I would love to go there. I honestly love it.
We
should go one time.
Yeah. The cool thing about it is it had each room from each decade would be kitted out as if it was within that decade, and then it would have the corresponding console or computer. So it gave the whole experience of like a little kid's bedroom in the mid-80s with the NES, or like the really bad 90s kind of, the chairs and the weird CD racks, and then
coloured chairs, skateboard in the corner.
Yeah. So it's really good, but they had some interest. They've got some interesting exhibits there, different computers and consoles as well, and they've also got I think they've got the first VR not commercially available, but commercially usable. So it was one that was in arcades very early on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite cool. But anyway, so we'll move on from the museum. I don't think we're going to talk anything more about that. But
yeah.
Let's move back to the arcade then, shall we?
Yeah, well, another thing for me was rail shooters, like
light gun games for people, because some people don't know what a rail shooter is, but on the rails.
Well, rail shooters. It's not specifically
rail
light gun
shooters
games.
It's American, really. We used to call them light gun.
Yeah, but rail shooters is now all in one sort of segment, because there's rail shooters, things like Star Fox, where you can't choose where you go. You just kind of have a little bit of movement where you're aiming, but it's still a linear path.
Yeah, you see now.
For me, it's light gun games, but rail shooters, things like Star Fox
A
is
rail shooter is
included.
Star Fox. Railgun isn't light gun for me, even though that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, but there were so many good experiences, like House of the Dead. I remember going in and looking at the House of the Dead 1 machine and how eerie it was. And do you remember a game called Crypt Killer?
Yep.
Crypt Killer was an enclosed. It was a big enclosed unit, arcade machine. If you don't know what that is, it's one that you pretty much go under a canopy to go at, because it was like a big, like a 60-inch either a projection or a big, like a plasma screen. It didn't look very good, but it's quite far away, and you had 3 shotguns, so it was 3-player. For a light gun game, the graphics were terrible. Had a really good PS1 port that was
that come out on the Saturn as well.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of like ports of it, and they didn't. They looked
shit awful. It was shit awful, but it was cool. It was
freaky because for the first time I'd experienced that I could have, you would go there with one person, for instance, your mate, and then all of a sudden you could also bring your mate's girlfriend or anyone.
Yeah,
like
get them involved.
A dad, and not that you would now, obviously, the political correctness or whatever it's called, but a dad and 2 kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, or a mum and 2 kids, you could go in and just be like, all 3 of you play. Obviously, you wouldn't play a game called Crypt Killer now.
But there's, do you remember Vampire
brilliant.
Night?
Yeah, Vampire Night is on my list, actually. Vampire Night was brilliant. And then they made an anime of it.
I stripped that machine down and had to repair all the light system on it. A lot of people don't know about Vampire Night. It was done by Sega.
Vampire Night's great. I'm looking for it for the PS2 at the moment to play on my Trinitron Sony CRT that I'm finally getting back from my mum and dad's.
Yeah, no, it's a really good game. That one of the worst was when they started to put in pre-render graphics, and then you had, well, it wasn't even a proper game. It was just all pre-rendered, and they had, what did Mortal Kombat use with the people? It wasn't green screen. It was just, what do you mean? Just they were just photos, weren't they? It was like motion captured, enemies.
Yeah. Do you mean things like Area 51? Do you remember that?
Area 51. That's what I was going to say.
Area 51. I got that on PS1.
Oh god, it was
honestly, it's brilliant. I know. Oh man, just some of the some of the voice clips in there. I remember there was a local arcade, well, local to both of us because we're from the same place, called the Carousel, and it was a tiny little one, but it always had the best video games. Like, upstairs was like a pool hall, but downstairs it had like quite a large like fruit machine and 2p area. But around this dark little corner, there was like all these new video games in a dark sort of.
Yeah, I remember that. They first had Street Fighter Alpha. That's
yeah.
Street Fighter Alpha.
And sorry, what was that? The voice went. We're on Discord, by the way.
No. I just said Street Fighter Alpha was the first. That was the first arcade that I played that in.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But Soul Calibur 1 was there. I remember Virtua Soccer was there, and I don't really.
Ridge Racer.
Yeah, Ridge Racer, and what's the truck one?
Route 66.
Is it Route 66?
Sega had Route 66, but that was pretty newish. I think it was 2000.
That was awesome. But no, in there that had an Area 51, like on this little tiny machine with these really horrible feeling like Beretta pistols.
Yeah.
And I always remember like the demo screen where one of the special forces used to kind of run across the screen really slow and then kind of like look at the camera and then like run off. Obviously, because if you shot them, you lost a life. But it was so bad. But I remember, used to get all my 20p's and sort of give it a go, because light gun games are sort of my passion, as you know, but from watching the pods. And every time that you run out of ammunition, usually it just says reload, or they have some sort of noise. This one was like a real creepy, like, reload, like a real gangster, like, reload, motherfucker, reload.
Was terrible. It was just.
And every time you're like, oh god, it's terrible to play. And all the aliens look like plasticine, like.
Yeah, it was.
When like you make something, it's either people dressed up, which you can understand, or it's plasticine that's at least kind of made an effort, like Shiva from Mortal Kombat and
they did
Goro.
a good job on that.
They were really good sort of examples of plasticine, like modeling clay in video games. They actually looked fairly realistic. You could tell they weren't real, but they looked really good. But these aliens in Area 51, they were all in fluorescent jumpsuits, all of them. Right, And you could tell when you looked at them, right, that they had really tiny legs and really like weird bodies, but the jumpsuits like hung off them really weird, and their faces looked as if basically they got the body, right, and they just stuck the head on the top of it and be like, yeah, that'll do as an alien. And they had like 3 animations each.
I think it was like a pretty tight budget.
Yeah, but it's...
To be honest.
I was going to say I'll try and emulate basically the aliens on my camera, if you imagine. Like, I need something... We'll use Lara Croft, right? Yeah? But they would be off the screen, but instead of like being, you know, like, oh, come on the screen, da, 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 you know, they would go really slowly and gotta go. And you couldn't shoot them during this bit. It was only until they were front-faced and got to their final sort of position. So you're shooting them like, fuck off! And then finally they get there, and then, but they'd fire in the first frame of them being active.
Yeah.
And you couldn't defend that, and you know, it was all fixed. But that was a game that I loved and hated at the same time.
An older one
was his light gun games.
Yeah. Now, see whether this rings any bells. Came out in '92, and it was called Lucky and Wild.
I've never heard of that.
So Lucky and Wild was a racing game and a shooting game. You had a steering wheel for one player and a light gun for the other.
Oh, so hold on a minute.
You had to drive. It's like a buddy cop film. It was like Lethal Weapon. And one had to drive and the other one had to shoot. It was bloody brilliant.
I don't want to put a video on because it's going to come on. Okay, I'm just going to mute that. Oh, you could have heard that.
You could play it one player, obviously.
Oh, shit.
But Lucky and Wild, yeah.
That's like Quarantine.
Oh, it's great. So good.
Do you know what? I've never played this, but I need to find it.
Namco, I think it was.
I need to find where this was released.
And I don't know whether it was released anywhere else. Just the arcade, I'm not sure.
No. Only arcade systems.
Yeah, there we go.
Arcade only, so that means... It's a parody of Tango and Cash?
Yeah, Tango and Cash, Lethal Weapon.
Oh, man. So that's one that we're going to have to play at some point when we get the old main back up and running.
Well, kind of.
We'd have to play with 2 mice.
No. One person drives.
Oh.
So you have one person driving the car and the other person shoots.
That's still pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
That is pretty savage. But another good game for me was Virtual Cop.
Oh, the classic. Absolute classic. I think the 2 big ones really were Virtua Cop and Time Crisis. They were the equivalent of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, I think. They both have completely different styles, but they were good in their own right.
Yeah. Like Virtua Cop was one of my faves. It was one of my goodies. I remember we used to go down there playing with my dad. He used to just sit there. He used to hate it. Like, well, he didn't hate it. I don't think it, but he used to sit there and go, "Oh, go on, let's go." And he would sit there and he would just keep pounding 50p's in, just to keep me happy. Like, and he would play. He wasn't very good, but he looked like he was enjoying himself. But I think that's why Virtua Cop always like makes me. It's always got a special place, like Virtua Cop 1 and 2. And then we went on holiday somewhere. I think I've mentioned this before to you. And then all of a sudden Virtua Cop 3 was out and we didn't even realise. And we were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And Dad was like, go on then. And I'm sure he put about £6 in there. It's ridiculous. But you just the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, just rub it to 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Because it's very difficult, whilst you does that, it's very difficult to recreate the light gun experience. Because the light guns work on CRTs, the way they I don't know, that it's something to do with the reflection of the light. Every time you fire, it creates a white screen and then measures where the light is.
Basically, it would fire every time that you fired. The screen would flash white, but then for one frame of that, there would be an off color. That if the gun recognizes that it's that off color, then that means that you hit the target.
There we go.
And if it's not off it, then it's gone off the target. It's really strange, like how it works, and it's so clever, ridiculously clever. But yeah, it's all to do with flashes and positioning. and whether you've hit targets or not.
So
That's how like Duck Hunt worked.
yeah, so the experience of getting that now is very difficult. You can emulate it with certain different machines. The Wii was one of them. I mean, PlayStation Move.
The Wii had some fantastic light gun games, man.
Yeah, it will never recreate the complete light gun experience, but even modern arcade light gun games now use either rear project, well, the old modern ones use rear projection tellies, and the new ones use flat screens. Now they normally have a matrix of 10 infrared sensors,
Yeah.
and it works using those sensors, so it's not light gun anymore as it used to be. But yeah, I'm just showing there is a way to get certain guns working with a Retro Pi, or well, Raspberry Pi with the right software to play retro games. So I thought
The
I'd
thing
link
is,
those
though,
over.
I've noticed on the link, it's the aim track light gun. I've
Yeah.
researched this before, and it's a mouse.
No, I understand that, but if you can play arcade light gun
Yeah,
games,
it's going to
that's
be the
only
closest
way.
you can get.
Yeah,
Like if you can get that calibration right, so it's basically it's a mouse. It's got a sensor bar in it, but it's a mouse where you point, and that's going to be the only way that you can do it with these new TVs. But that's why I kind of want to go back to my Trinitron Sony. I think it's called Trinitron or Tritron. I'm not sure, but they're like the sort of the best quality monitors for like older consoles, and especially for like light guns. They're just the best quality, and you can edit all of even the refresh rates and the cross refresh rates and everything on it. And I've got one of them. I've had them for years, not even really knowing it, and I used to play all my consoles through that. So I'm going to get that, but that's purely for light gun games. Because honestly, I could sit in front of games like light gun games for decades. I'd be quite happy. I could just sit there and play and play and play. Like today, I bought a PS2 for $5, right? And I got it working. And the first thing I put in there...
What was wrong with it?
It said it powers on and just won't work, but I cleaned all the discs. Sorry, they cleaned all the lenses.
So
Blew it out with some
literally
air.
just the lens.
I haven't seen any problems. Like, it doesn't read discs every time. That from before. I haven't tried it since I've cleaned it out, because then I found I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but mug boot. But I found that software and was just like, oh, let's have a look at that. But yeah, then they said, oh, we need to test a game, and you look at my shelf and you think, oh Christ, all of them are light gun games. It's uncanny. Because for PS2, I pretty much bought them all.
Well, you know, they are.
I haven't found
PS2 was
Crisis Zone,
prolific. Oh, Crisis Zone. That had the submachine gun, fully automatic, destructible environments.
Oh yes.
Do you remember
Crisis Zone's
Ninja
great.
Assault?
I do remember Ninja Assault. That was a
Oh,
crappy
good.
game.
Yeah. Ninja Assault was another.
That was a PS2.
Namco releases.
Well, I say it was crappy. It wasn't crappy, man. It's just it didn't have my attention as much as the other ones, especially like Time Crisis. Like Time Crisis 2, I think's my big dog.
You see, I always preferred number one. I know it was only a single player game, but number one was always my favourite.
One is the best game. Don't get me wrong, but one was not 2-player.
No.
So one was very much a personal experience.
Crisis Zone wasn't 2-player either.
No, but you did have a massive machine gun, which kind of made up for it.
Of course, it was Silent Scope. Silent Scope was different.
Do you know what? One of the only light gun games that I didn't get on with.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. I loved the arcade editions of them because the gun that you had a screen in the scope.
Yeah,
so you could actually see. It was really clever how they did that. However, when that was ported to console, original Xbox and Dreamcast, I don't think it was on anything else. Honestly, it was.
You need the gun. Yeah,
you need the gun, but there's no scope. It's just where you pointed, the scope was on, and you're like, it just looked really weird. It wasn't like, oh, fire. It was just, there was always a zoomed circle wherever you were aiming, and it was just a bit like, I don't know. To me, a sniper game is not something that you can class as a light gun game, even though it is a light gun, essentially, you know, I know that. But it's all about kind of sitting there, aiming, taking the shot, whereas I like the frantic sort of like, you know.
Yeah, which you're not going to get from that sort of game.
And you don't get it from that sort of game. But
no.
It was an alright, I'd probably give it, I don't know, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. For me,
I'd say it'd be worth a bit more than that, I think. But
not.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a light gun game.
The game itself was a good game, and it was, you know, it definitely had its merits. But as a console port, it was just boring. But
So
on the Dreamcast, they did like 1 and 2 and 3, I think it was, all on one disc, and I couldn't even get through the first one. No, Silent Scope.
Oh right, yeah, no.
I think
You
it was
need the
1,
gun.
2, and 3.
You need the gun, otherwise it's just
Well,
rubbish.
yeah,
'Cause
it's just
in the arcade, you'd be obviously you look at the whole screen to find your targets, and then you look down the scope and pick them off, and that was a really good experience.
in the arcade experience.
Yeah,
It's a
the
higher score
arcades,
than
yeah.
that because the arcade experience was great, but just on consoles is just a bit shite, really.
What about other games in the arcades? Because obviously we've done side-scrolling beat 'em ups. There were so many of them, and Golden Axe, for example, another classic.
We recently did Golden Axe 3, didn't we, together?
Yeah, Golden Axe 3.
Well, also, I'd like to bring up as well, what was that criminal one that we played?
Cops. Hang on.
Where you controlled the 2 burglars, one was tall and one was short and fat.
Oh, the Bonanza Brothers.
Bonanza Brothers, that was so good. That was so good.
Yeah,
that was a good,
Bonanza
like,
Brothers.
good arcade, sort of arcade game. But other things, like even sports games, I kind of find quite good in the arcade sort of environment. I did spend a lot of time, like, with them.
Oh, Virtua Tennis for me.
Yeah,
Loved it.
Virtua Tennis, well, like, Virtua Soccer was a good one for me. No,
Yeah,
was it Virtua Soccer? Yeah, it was Virtua Soccer.
There was another one.
So
before that.
arcadey as well. It wasn't a simulation. It was just like,
Yeah, it was just.
I loved it. Bust a Move. That was a classic for me. Big sit-down cabinet in the pier.
Even Bubble Bobble. I remember playing first off in the arcade. Obviously, I never played Rainbow Islands, and apparently that was an arcade game.
Never
I
seen
remember
it as an
playing
arcade
that
game.
on the Amiga.
For me, it was always a home release. Like, I had it on the Atari ST. And New Zealand Story.
New Zealand Story I had for the Amiga, and that was the first game I ever played on it, and I didn't know that was an arcade game.
Yeah, like,
And that was, but then I kind of should have known because it was fucking balls hard. It really was, but it was good.
I loved it though. I thought.
Oh, do you remember Pit Fighter?
Oh, when you used to go across the screen like with 2 frames. Yeah, that was a shitty game, man.
Yeah,
Pit Fighter was bad.
yeah.
But there was a lot of those, like Time Killers as well. Do you remember that?
No.
It's basically a really overly cartoony one, like game with all these people from different time zones, but you could like hack limbs off.
Oh yes. I remember that.
Yeah, that was a fun game. But there was like a period of really bad fighting games.
Time Killers, in my opinion, was just trying to cash in on Mortal Kombat.
Oh, for
Whereas
every Mortal Kombat
was
game,
a good game. So if it didn't have the gore, it would have still been a good game.
there is one Mortal Kombat clone that I think is worth its salt. Guess what it is?
You're talking about from the arcades?
Yeah, and home consoles, but
Well, it's a Mortal Kombat clone. There wasn't that many.
well, I
about,
wouldn't say it's a
was there?
clone, but it's got it's basically it jumped off Mortal Kombat's fame.
Please tell me it's not Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct.
Oh God, no.
Right, Killer Instinct. I personally hated that game. I
Yeah,
hated
so
it.
did I.
Couldn't do it. Combos are too hard. But I tell you what, if you saw someone that knew how to do those combos and you watched them do it, it was something of beauty.
Oh, they were
They're
like a
sitting there doing-
magician.
Yeah, like they would sit there and they would get into it, and their fingers were literally just going like it was just so fast. They were just doing all these things. And you're like, you're just watching in awe as they're just going like 60 hits, 70 hits,
to be
80
honest-
hits. You're like, wow. But
Yeah.
I never ever got past 10.
I'll tell you what, though, saying about these magicians in the arcade, I have seen a guy that came in. He was obviously on holiday, and he played the dance machine on both pads at maximum
Oh yeah.
and flipped around in it and used the bars. So, yeah, you do occasionally see those sort of people.
Thing is, I got a lot of respect for them because the dance games are good. The dance games are really, they have a place.
Oh, of course they do, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's like,
Going back to Killer Instinct, another one that fucking, I think it was the same people, Primal Rage.
now
Terrible.
Primal, yeah, didn't like Primal Rage. I'm not sure if that was an arcade game.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Was it?
I remember playing it in the arcade, yeah. It first
I
came.
remember,
Okay.
because when I played it, the first time I played it was on the Mega Drive.
No, Primal Rage was an
And
arcade game
that
first.
was weird. the weird thing about Primal Rage, like the thing that kind of freaked me out was when you had the two, obviously the monsters fighting, whether it's dinosaur or the big gorilla thing. The only thing that freaked me out is you had the beating heart at the top.
Yeah.
And then if you killed them, that heart exploded, and that really kind of made me feel like, oh, what the hell is this? Oh, I don't like it. Because I was only like 6 or 8 at the time.
Okay, it was released 1994.
So, oh, it must have been, yeah, 9.
And I think it was 95 for the Mega Drive.
Oh, 10. Yes, I'm 32. Yes, work it out.
And then, for me, a lot of other good games were racing games.
Things like Sega Rally.
Sega Rally was a big one. Crazy Taxi. I loved Crazy Taxi. Daytona.
Daytona!
Yeah.
Let's go away!
It's quite funny you should talk about, actually, games you didn't know were arcade games first. I didn't realise Soul Calibur was an arcade game first.
Soul Blade as well.
Yeah, and I played... The first Soul game I played was on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I remember.
The first time.
I remember having Soul Blade on the PS1 and then not just thinking, oh, no, it wasn't PS1, sorry. It must have been the arcades because that was before its time, I think. But I remember walking into that Carousel arcade,
yeah,
and seeing Soul Calibur and be like, "Oh, is this a rip-off or is this Soul Blade 2? Or is it because essentially, like, we're about to get Soul Calibur 6, aren't we?
Yeah,
right." But to me, for those games, because they had the same characters in them, surely this is 7 for me. Because Soul Blade was not Soul Calibur. Do you see what I mean?
No, it's right. It's like Demon Souls and Dark Souls.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Dark Souls 3, but it's not. It's actually Demon Souls 4.
Yeah.
Like, to me.
Technically. I don't know why they rebranded it, but I think it's something to do with Japanese.
Yes, the thing is, like, I don't understand why they rebranded it in the first place anyway for that, because it's not like it was the same engine and they just had loads of new characters. They had, like, all of the old characters in, like, Voldo was in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ivy, is it Ivy with a sword that bends?
Yeah, the whip sword.
Sophatia, Cervantes, they were all in Soul Blade, but for some reason, I just thought Soul Calibur was the arcade version.
Wasn't there a Soul Edge as well, or was that just the
Soul Edge was the weapon?
Yeah, so
it was the name of the weapon that you were chasing. But yeah, there's so many games that, as you say, that I didn't realise were arcade as well.
I think arcades started to go downhill really when the consoles, for me, caught up. And it wasn't just the fact; it was the quality of the games as well. It's when when you could play on the consoles exactly what was in the arcades, then it became a problem.
Because as we referenced before with Punisher, like if you played the Punisher at home, the arcade version was always better. But then when it started to get like, there is no point you going to the arcade anymore because there is a home port, all those machines become extinct, essentially.
Yeah, I think
people aren't going to pay 20, 30, 50p a go when they can spend 30 quid.
It was when the PS1 came out. Because when the PS1 came out, it could play any 2D game as well as the arcades.
Yeah.
And 3D games were getting there. But because 3D was in its infancy, a lot of 3D games weren't very good anyway.
Like Lethal Enforcers. Do you remember that?
Yeah, just...
That was another one that used photos. That was another Lightgun game.
For me, the best arcade games were always, probably because of my age, were the two-dimensional ones. You know, Metal Slug. I loved that. Marvel vs. Capcom. That was great. You see, I didn't like Tekken. Virtua Fighter, I didn't mind, but I didn't play much Tekken.
There was other things that kind of... I wouldn't say that kind of messed me up, but it very much opened my eyes when I found out that there's a lot of the games that I loved, as we said before, they're actually arcade games, but they don't actually make sense as arcade games. They're like a lot of single player titles, like Alex Kidd was an arcade game.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a single player adventure game. That's like Sonic being an arcade game. But I guess it would make sense because you're continuing. But to me, that doesn't seem like the sort of game where you would put your credit in.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Neo Geo brought out the or was it Neo Geo? I think it was Neo Geo that brought out the Super Nintendo arcade cabinet. So you could put your money in, you got time. So you could play Super Mario World.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
played
that.
it for a certain amount of time, and then that was it.
The
And
thing
people
is,
would do timed runs on it. But yeah, it's not a game that you'd associate with it.
it's like platformers. I don't see how they could be arcade games. Like it's not like it's not. I can't see how.
No,
I don't think.
no, they were perfect for it because you've got lives. And lives are credits.
But it wasn't sort of something that was. You need to move away from your mic a little bit, please, mate.
Oh, sorry.
You're breathing all over it. Got Darth Vader on the right there. But it's like Streets of Rage, there was always a constant threat that you were going to get beaten up. There's always ways for you to lose your health. But with a platformer game, if you choose not to jump, you just sit there.
No, you have a timer. In the arcades, all the platformers had a tight timer, which means you'd have to keep moving. You couldn't just stand there. I played quite a few. Ghosts and Goblins, classic arcade game. That was balls hard. And yeah, you just have to keep going. Joust, I suppose that was another good platformer. Indiana Jones, was it Indiana Jones? One of the Indiana Jones games, that's platformer. And yeah, they just tighten the timings for how long you've got left, and then you just have to go for it.
And if you run out of time, you run out of time. You know, like what?
Yeah.
But it's like, if I open, smack the mic again.
Steady.
If I open MAME, I wonder what. Oh no. The thing is, like, if I open MAME and then you look at some of them and you think, actually, this is like some of the things. You know what? I can't open it. It's not letting me. You look through and you think these are not arcade games to me, but like Streets of Rage apparently was in the arcades, and I've never seen a Streets of Rage arcade machine. But I can see how that would work.
Streets of Rage was Sega's own IP for the console.
No, it's because it's in MAME.
Yeah, but that was probably one of Sega's multi-arcade cabinets they had.
Ah, that makes sense. Then that makes perfect sense because there was always like a lot of it where I was like, why? How?
Right. I would say it's probably look up, if my memory serves me right, and I know a touch about arcades. Look up the Sega Mega Play. I think that's what it's called. And I'm not going to search for it. I'm going to see. Now, the Sega Mega Play, if it was called the Mega Play, was basically a console that was locked into an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, there you go. So, yeah, it's not an arcade game. What they did was bring some of the games from the console into the arcade with that.
It's a PCB, right? With 4 fat old cartridges in it.
It'll probably be a System 16 then. If it's got the actual, has it got cartridges that look like Mega Drive cartridges?
Well, they say Mega Play on them, but there's like
that'll be a System 16, which is essentially
Streets of Rage 2, Golden Axe 2, Tecmo World Cup, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that makes sense. So Streets of Rage 2 was the one. Oh, so that would be the Sega Mega Play version of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's eye-opening.
So they used a System 16 board, which was essentially a Mega Drive, but obviously bespoke for the arcades. And I think the Master System, like Wonder Boy, was the wasn't the Mega Tech. If you look up System 16 and Mega Tech, and they're basically Jammer. You know what Jammer is, yeah?
No.
So Jammer is a Jammer compatible systems. It's a certain type of
yeah, it is Mega Tech
controls. It's all to do with the controls and the screens, and it's a certain standard for arcades.
Right.
But they weren't Jammer PCBs, so they were Sega's own. But it meant that if you had a Jammer cabinet, you could put a Megatech or a System 16 into it, and it would be compatible. So you'd be able to tell it, right, this game uses 3 buttons and an 8-way joystick or a 4-way. So it's pretty easy with a Mega Drive. You put it into a Jammer cabinet, which normally has 2 6-button, joysticks. And for the Mega Drive, you say, well, it's 3-button. You'd use the
Yeah,
top three, and then you just put the marketing gumph on it for whatever you
that
wanted.
makes so much sense. That's
Yeah.
eye-opening for me, I'm afraid. That's
And
bloody
like I
good.
say, Nintendo now, Nintendo, I can't remember the name of, but it was the equivalent of a System 16 board. But I think it was
But
fronted.
Nintendo had their own cabinet too.
Well, no, I think it was Neo Geo that put the games.
Right.
Let's have a look. I'm sure it was Neo Geo that fronted it. I could be wrong. Obviously, they started doing their own, but
Do you remember the game Chiller?
yes.
Which is really, I don't understand. Like, I kind of want to move on to the sort of weird games of arcade. Like, have you seen? What's the weirdest sort of arcade game that you've seen? Do you know what mine was?
Go on.
Bunga Bunga.
What
Basically,
was Bunga Bunga?
It's a Japanese arcade game, right? And you basically controlled a massive foam finger, like this. And there was a dude there in the machine. There was a guy or a girl bent over, right? And the whole point of Bunga Bunga is you had to poke them up the arse really hard. And that's a genuine game, and it's called Bunga Bunga. I might see if I can copy a picture.
What?
Yeah, it's a real thing. If I'm going to go into images, I don't know how safe this is going to be.
I never played anything where. No, I never played anything like that. And I've just found it. Bunga Bunga. Holy Jesus.
So if I open this image in a new tab. So I'm going to copy it over my window. So you can kind of see. There you go. So basically this is the arcade machine where you would have this big foam hand here. Right? And you would have someone bent over. And you would poke them really hard up there, and it would basically give you a score. You know, like the punching machines that you used to have.
Yeah.
It's like that, and to me, that's such a weird game. Like it's phenomenal how weird it can get. Like I've played games. You know, what's the games where you have to take certain amounts of the screen? Like if you look at
yeah, well you have to make the squares and you cut out the screen.
Yeah, they made one of Miss World, right?
Okay.
And I found this out by accident because I was going through MAME one time and I was going through just like gradually clicking ones, but on MAME, I might as well just say it, on the PS3 MAME emulator, if you've modded it, it doesn't show the file names properly. It will basically like Miss World will be like MW whatever, MW 2000.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what's that? And I clicked it was Miss World, and it said Miss World Nude, and obviously me being a guy, I was like, oh, alright, I didn't realise this is an arcade game, let's give it a shot. Because to come out of the games you had to reset it, and I was just like, oh, well, fuck it, we'll try.
Yeah.
So you start, and you have to pick a country, and you'd pick a country, and then you'd pick a girl out of that country, and you're like, oh, that one, whatever. And it would have, the whole thing would be kind of like covered up, but you'd have a little picture up here of just this girl's face.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh no, it'd be this side, because it's all reversed on mine. So you'd have a little picture of the girl, and you'd gradually take bits of the screen away, and gradually reveal parts of this girl. So we've all played these sort of games before. But randomly, the music will then start going into this like techno, and they would put some really sort of horrible digital art of like Hellraiser or Freddy Krueger or something really in your face, and you're like, why has this happened? And it's really shocking. It's
to be honest, the Japanese got a lot of weird arcade games, and like I say, because the arcade's still prolific over there, they've had the budget like to make an experiment more than here.
It's
I mean, have you seen the picture I've just sent you?
No, give me a sec.
That wasn't released over here.
What's this?
Half-Life 2.
Half-Life?
Yeah, Half-Life 2, the arcade game.
Half-Life... Right, that's going. I'm going to show that on the thing as well. Apparently, there's Half-Life, the video game. That's going to be reversed for you as well. Sorry.
Half-Life 2 Survivor. It was released. When was it released? Let's have a quick look here. I've got it.
Is it actually Half-Life, or is it a specific?
No, it's not Half-Life. It's an arcade version of Half-Life. So it was released in 2006. Joystick control, developed by Valve and Taito. And players must control their movement using 2 joysticks, one for each hand, and floor pedals. So you got 3 gameplay modes: story, which approximates the events of the original mission.
Right.
And if you're playing 2-player, you work cooperatively.
Okay.
You've got battle, which is like a death match, and you can have that up to 8 local players, or you can have other networked arcades. And then you've got mission. So you got the story mission, which is the co-op story, and then you've got battle. And it's all different combat scenes. So yeah.
Believe it or not, that's not on my MAME. It's not even got an entry on MAME.
No.
That's such a shame.
But yeah, that was. I haven't played any like weird games.
But there's
that's
like sex quizzes and stuff like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, again, but that they never got. A lot of them never got released here, just because a lot of it was to do with the Japanese market. So yeah, I think it's a bit different here. You can actually get the Survivor code for Half-Life 2 as a mod if you ever want to play it.
I think I do want to play it, actually. Anything that kind of brings that element in, I'm happy with.
I also used to love Initial D racing games and Maximum Tune racing games. They were really cool. Maximum Tune has the cards, so you could actually upgrade your car. It costs you £1 for the card, and every time you play, at the end of the race, you can upgrade your wheels, your engine, your tires, or something else, exhaust, I think it was, and then it would burn the upgrade onto the card. So it's like thermal print.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's just
so the more money you spend.
Well, it's like every time you go and play it, then you can upgrade. And Ghost Squad did the Ghost Squad originally did cards.
I just need to stop you there. One of the greatest arcade Wii arcade versions ever. Love it. Carry on.
Well, you played on the Wii. What you played is the Ghost Squad, the new Ghost Squad, where originally you had a card and the card was £1.
I remember that.
Yeah, and you could unlock weapons. You can unlock different difficulties of the levels, and then they brought out Ghost Squad Evolution, which is what's on the Wii, and Ghost Squad Evolution. The arcade game was essentially the same game, but with all the upgrades unlocked. So you didn't have a card because the card didn't work as a marketing ploy. Didn't really.
I never knew that. Honestly never knew that.
Yeah, Ghost Squad Evolution was just the game.
So I remember the card, and I just kind of assumed that the unlocks in the Wii version, where you unlocked, I don't know, different costumes or anything, well, what you got on the cards, obviously, however good you were. You're like, oh, you've unlocked jungle camo or something.
Yeah, and on the card,
was on your card,
you would unlock it, but the Evolution was basically the same with everything unlocked.
Oh.
You just had everything from the offset because they couldn't sell the cards and they were too expensive.
Oh, another great arcade game for me. You've probably heard it. Obviously, you work in arcades, but I don't know what it is. It's called Animal Kaiser.
Ah, yes, Animal Kaiser. So,
I
like
love
Pokemon.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got rid of 3 of those machines I've got sitting in storage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What are they getting done with it? With them?
I can't say.
Oh, God. That breaks my heart. Are they not in and they're not active anymore?
No, there's not a real market for it now.
I loved it.
All it is paper, scissors, rock, and the Japanese made about 9 different cabinets. It wasn't just Animal Kaiser. There was can't remember we had another one that was very popular.
I love them so much that I still have the Animal Kaiser cards in my pocket.
Oh, there you go, Jesus.
How cool is that? So basically, Animal Kaiser was just rock, paper, scissors, but it had a little scanner. So when you unlocked different things, it's like, oh, what creature card are you going to use? And they had little barcodes on the back. And you put it under the scanner and it would recognise that you're using this character. And then you had like an ability card. then you would use that, and then it was just so fun. It's just because obviously after every time you get a new card. That's what it is, that's your... I've got the Great Horned Owl, and I've got Strike Fast, and then my special move is like Divide.
There was kids that I knew played it had binders of those. 150 cards.
If you want to make
the arcades.
If you want to make money, you make them collect things. I tell you.
Yeah.
Because that worked for me. When I was in Clacton, I spent about 20 quid. It's loot, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't mind paying £1 a go for a really shitty game because you know you're getting a card at the end of it. You're getting something in return.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gets you hooked. Honestly, it gets you. Yeah.
Especially kids.
Every time I see Animal Kaiser, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get me some of that.
Do you always keep the cards in your wallet?
Yeah. Because they take such little amount of space.
Yeah.
So, they take such little amount of space that it's just like, well, I might as well just keep them with me. And I first played it in Clacton. They had like a line of like 8 of them. And we were all sitting there on a store build, just playing Animal Kaiser, just like doing it. And you can go against your mates, and you're like, yes, just playing this glorified version of rock paper scissors. But I loved it. I thought it was grand.
I think
because so many games do that with card based.
Yeah, and if you're collecting cards anyway, then it makes sense, And the Japanese really did capitalise on that.
Yeah, the Japanese are real. The Japanese are like real sort of suckers for things like that. For
big time.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. They just know how to make people want to play things.
Especially for Japanese culture, they got just such weird stuff that we never got over here. Thank God we didn't, because some of it's wrong. But I wouldn't mind seeing it in the wild in Japan. That'd be pretty cool.
No, but anyway, well, I think we're going to finish up here because this was only a little short one. We just wanted to kind of talk about some arcade games, things.
Bit of a gossip, bit of a gossip.
We're still going to be obviously having our normal podcast about the topical events, but we're going to be doing multiple ones of these whenever we feel like it. It's usually, I reckon, we're going to start doing, these maybe once every 2 weeks, just kind of little ones to go in the middle, just of subjects that we want to talk about. But anyway, I'm not going to kind of draw this out like the last one. All I'm going to say is I'm going to throw it over to Ali, that way, and give us a exiting comment, like the exit music for a film. Go on, just give us something. Yeah, that was great. So basically, no, have you got any parting words for us all?
That was a silent film. That was a quip from a
silent were you doing like give us a exit music for a film? You just go.
Yeah, exactly. Silent film.
And just look into the sunset. Yeah. But anyway, we're going to wrap this one up.
I'll tell you what.
He's got some.
Based on what I've if there's any kids watching this, and you play, games, whether it was computer or console, try and find a way nowadays. Now there's a way. Try and find a way to go and play them in the same place as your friends. Go around your friend's house. All get together, get some snacks, and have a good time together. Don't sit there with a headset on, playing alone in your room. Go and get involved with each other. Yeah, just get everyone around for a party, because that's what we had to do when we were kids, and that's my lesson.
I think
it's all about social gaming.
Yeah, every person should experience a LAN party in their life.
Social gaming is what the arcades were about.
Definitely, 100%.
If you're going to play a beat 'em up, make sure you're next to your mate when you're doing him in.
Punching him in the arm. Yeah. Pinching him. Putting him off.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for listening. This has been the Nostalgia Podcast. We're Modded Gossip, and we hope to hear from you soon. See you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.